Good. It's nice and hot today.
Oh, yeah. Hey, it's the Jimmy Doan Show.
Ooh, we're on time, too.
We're live.
That's right.
Live at 4 o'clock twice a week, every week, Wednesdays and Sundays, Eastern Time. We do the show. And you can join us right here live on Facebook. I'll also post a subject timed stamped copy up on YouTube right afterwards for your ease of perusal. Today is February the 13th. Hey Gene, how's it going? Hey Dan, good to see you. I'm here with Jimmy Doan.
Hi there, everybody.
And I'm Council Curtis. So,
Right on time today.
That's right. So what is happening? Oi.
Okay, well, I tell you, but first of all,
Uh-huh.
the first thing I want to do is I want to show you this cartoon that was in our local paper.
Okay.
And
This is a local paper?
This is a local paper. I want to show you this cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let me just see here what it says here. It says, here, pull my hoof.
Yeah.
Okay, now, it was interesting. I showed this cartoon. Jake Fuller puts this, he's a local guy, and I told him this cartoon puts him in the Hall of Fame. Now, here's the deal. There's apparently some people, and Mrs. Jimmy was one of them, that didn't understand this cartoon, did not get the humor. And
Weird.
I know it's weird because most of us understand. Well, let me put it this way. If you don't know what the humor is, I'm probably not going to be able to explain it to you because it's one of the funniest cartoons I've ever seen. So the big news, of course, has to do now. Actually, we're still waiting for the news. Has to do with the signing. Is Trump going to cave? Not cave?
Or is he going to declare an emergency or do
Who
something?
knows?
Right.
You know, is he going to sign the thing?
Right.
And of course, I don't know, but isn't he supposed to be in Hanoi on Friday or something? To meet
Something like that.
Kim Jong-un or whatever. Tomorrow's Valentine's Day, right?
Well, he's got a phone.
He's got a phone, right? And a pen.
Right, the auto pen. You can
Yeah,
get an auto pen.
That's right. Anyway, he says what he's going to do. So anyway, apparently he's going to sign, and it's 1.7 billion or 1 point whatever it is. It's nowhere near what he's asking. And if you saw his rally in San Antonio, or in El Paso. It was fun, 25,000 people there all screaming their heads off. And
Well, the funny thing was the Beto rally right next to it.
yes, right next to where it was sparse, shall we say.
Well, what I liked was he had fences up. He had barriers up.
Really?
Yeah, he had barriers.
I did not know
Yeah,
that.
he had to have barriers because,
Who knows?
yeah.
Illegal people might show up.
Or just people go where you don't want them to.
Yeah.
Which is, so you use
he was all for barriers.
Amoral barriers.
Okay, good. At any rate, apparently there was somebody got a little roughed up there, and that was the big scandal. Was this is what happens? You have Trump people in there killing somebody.
Right,
So,
the cameraman or something.
I didn't
even read this.
I don't know.
story.
I didn't get it.
I figured it was going to be a hit piece on the Trump rally.
It was.
Okay.
It was a total hit piece. So anyway, the other piece of news in the Senate is Mitch McConnell has decided.
Oh yeah, this is funny.
This is funny. He's coming out. He said, "Oh well, on the resolution. Remember now, it's not a law or anything else.
Right.
It's just an idea resolution on occasional
AOC.
Yeah, AOC. Right.
Her Green New Deal.
Her Green New Deal, which of course there was the cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
The point is that he says, well, okay, we're going to vote on it.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously what's happened is there have been like 40 Democrats in the House, and I think most all of the hopefuls, except for one or two, have said they're on board.
Right.
So he's going to get a chance to bring it up for a vote in the Senate, and then we're going to find out who really is for it. I mean, I thought this was a
I thought it was funny that he couldn't contain his smile.
Yeah, no, that's right.
He was doing,
Mitch, the turtle. I mean, here's a guy who
Right.
never smiles,
Right.
and then you
it just
it crept
busted out.
It crept out. I mean, it's funny because they couldn't even get a hearing for 8 months. Didn't want to get a hearing on 8 months or a vote or anything for the Supreme Court guy before Trump was elected. It was 8 months or whatever it was. They held off. No vote for us. This 10 minutes after 2 days after this resolution comes, well, we'll vote on it then. And I'll tell you, some people are
Getting things done.
Oh well, of course, the first person to show up, I think it was Markey, malarkey, whatever it is, and he said, I think he might have been the one. He said, well, no, this is a little. We need to examine this.
Oh, right, and then he co-sponsor as well.
Yeah, oh, totally, right. Yeah, he's co-sponsor.
Good.
He said, we need to think about this for a while, and let's not rush to a vote here.
Yeah, like I said, this was the initial come to Jesus moment when they put out some proposals that everybody's just like, yeah, we have thought of that before and tried it, and you know, so
it's just I'm laughing because of course a lot of people have gone through this thing in depth, and I mean people especially
so used to, because it's a resolution A,
right,
because it's pie in the sky also,
right.
I mean,
right.
This story is about the conversation,
right,
you know,
that's exactly right.
So
and but it's one of these things that the thing that is a little scary about it, of course, is that here's this freshman senator who has been in politics for about a month, and and she's the hero. I mean, and
well, like I said,
she's the one that's always out front.
For now, I'm telling you, right?
People, but old white guys sitting there going,
it's true. But right now, she just got the sit down this last week. I mean, she did. She got that from everybody. Everybody said. I mean, there's nobody who didn't come out and say, yeah, loved your green dream. Keep it on the table there. Or send it back to the formula.
I thought that the sit down one was the Ilya, what's her name, who's the...
Yeah, that one, yeah.
And she got bashed and she apologized.
Right.
For being anti-Semitic in her remarks, which of course, this is one of those so typical. You wonder. A lot of people would say, and her whole life has been anti-Semitic, and now she comes out and says, "Well, I've learned not to be," like yesterday.
Right.
Well, no, that's not the way it works.
Who knows? She seems pleasant enough when you hear her talk.
She won an election.
Right. Well, and she seems sweet, and she talks. She seems nice. But at the same time, I mean, look, there's obviously a problem over with Palestine and Israel.
Oh yeah.
But their problem for the most part.
That's as far as I'm. Yeah, this is how long has it been going on? I'm sorry. Look, this is one of those things.
Years, it's almost resolved.
Yeah, right. And we'll resolve it. The Oslo Accord, right? Okay, good.
That's right. Well, yeah, and Ilhan. What was I going to say about her? I don't remember now. But
I can't remember. But anyway, so you think that occasional Cortez or whatever is going to be, silence? No, I think
not just yet. No, I think she'll have a second run here. This was just the first thing.
Yeah.
But like I said, I think at some point she'll come out and say something else. Unless she goes and does her homework, unless she goes and reads up on stuff. But right now, I got to imagine that everything that she's proposing, she's getting blowback of the first order. It's so easy to refute those things. I mean, you can't even...
Well, of course, a lot of people have done, what they've done is, the first thing they did was go off the deep end and say, well, you're going to take a train to Hawaii. Well, that was never in the thing. I mean...
Well, of course not. Of course not. But even the concept of being able to eliminate air travel. No, I'm sorry. It's not going to happen. Ever. Never. I don't care how fast your
remember now, we talked about a little bit about this last time. I don't believe that eliminating air travel was in the proposal. What it was... What it was we are going to net zero out our carbon.
She said we would obviate the need for air travel.
Okay.
That's the way that it was written is we'll have our trains and everything so fast and cool that you won't even have to do air travel anymore, was her point. That's why she said, she didn't say, I'm going to eliminate it. She said, I'm going to remove the need for it.
Okay.
But you're not. You're just not. That's never going to happen. It's never. Give up on that one.
Well, not only that, I got a news flash for her, and this is the thing that's crazy. She's talking about, having all electric cars.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's impossible. I mean, it's impossible for a couple of reasons. First of all, here you are, as you were just recently, you're in northern Minnesota, and you want to go 200 miles, and it's 0 degrees outside, and it's dark. So you've turned on your heater, full blast, you've turned on your headlights, and whatever else it is, and, your range now is 4 feet.
You get to the end of the driveway.
I mean, seriously, and your battery dies.
Well,
and not only that, with the temperature that you have to have a certain amount of heat to the battery before you can heat.
You just don't use the heat. You just go.
Right. I did this. I was traveling in Norway one time from Lillehammer down to Oslo to take an airplane in an unheated car. You don't want to do that. This was in right at the end of December in 1965.
Uh-huh.
And I'll tell you right now, it was cold.
Yeah.
You don't want to do that.
Well, okay, you're absolutely right. Right now, the technology is not up to snuff, but our viewers are watching a slideshow here that I compiled about electric vehicles and their increase in use. I included autonomous vehicles in this little slideshow too, because you can see how much they're ramping up. This is charging stations right there. Now we're up to a couple of thousand charging stations in Florida, and 10% of them are high speed. Now, I don't know what high speed is. I think it's still pretty damn slow.
Yeah, compared to gas.
Yeah. I think it's like 30 minutes or something is high
When
speed.
you think you can pull into a gas, literally, here's the deal.
Right.
You don't even have to fill up. I need to go 100 miles.
Right.
Okay, so I'm only going to get 5 gallons or something
Yeah.
like that. I'm out of here.
Yeah, it takes you 30 seconds.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they can't compete yet. And that's the problem, but it's coming around. The electric vehicles.
I don't think so. I think it's pie in the sky. And the guy you need to go is what is he? He's on Eric Peters. Eric Peters, I think his name is.
Okay.
He has a blog. He's an automobile guy.
Uh-huh.
Totally. And he's talked about exactly why you can't do the electric cars. They're too inefficient on so many, because first
Right.
of all the power plants you're going to have, how are they going to be fueled?
Right. Well, and that's the other thing. It doesn't cut down on carbon emissions
Right.
to use an electric car.
Right.
It just moves them.
Right.
So that isn't exactly, I would say, a key component of any type of green.
But you know, the thing is, you'd be scared. You know, if you run, it's bad enough when you run out of gas on a cold day.
Right.
You know, you have to phone up, I guess, have somebody come get you. But if you run out of, I mean, you could at least call up AAA and they'll bring you a gallon of gas.
Right. Well, there's like things like there's some of those cars that now have the capacity to have, they have a little motor in them and you can put a gallon of gas.
Right.
Like you have a little auxiliary thing there that'll get you down to the
Yeah, well, it
charging
reminds me a
station.
little bit of the, you know, on your 40-foot sailboat,
Uh-huh.
you've got a, you know, an 8 horsepower outboard.
Right, exactly.
If the wind completely dies,
Right.
you can go somewhere.
Exactly.
And I've been on some.
Right, and they'll get better at that. I mean, it is, when you look at the ramping up of the electric vehicles, it's phenomenal. It's going to be
Okay,
great.
I don't
But
think so.
that doesn't make any difference in the Green New Deal situation. And not only that, but she doesn't like nuclear for some reason.
Yeah.
She thinks. I mean, I don't know why she doesn't like nuclear. There's
But
nothing.
you and I have talked about the fact that it's not the nuclear that's really going to be coming here probably in the next 20 to 30 years is going to be fusion.
Right. And that's the game changer,
Right, that's the
obviously,
game
on every level. But even we could even do a huge amount for ourselves for nuclear. But this is all just ridiculous pie in the sky green crap. Like, look, and the best way, I thought, now Trump framed it correctly, which was, he said, look, whatever you're thinking about doing over here, remember, we're still in competition with the rest of the world.
Right.
You can't just eliminate a whole bunch of industry over here and not expect the other countries to jump in on those opportunities and to jump ahead, leap ahead in terms
Well,
of...
we talked a little bit about that last time as far as China, having not been burdened down with legacy stuff,
Right.
As we are in this country.
The graph, one of the graphs I just posted showed China now has 3 times the number of electric vehicles that we have.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, of course, we got 3 times the people.
Yeah, they do. But still,
We
it's
still only
interesting.
got like 2 or 3% or 5% electric vehicles in this country.
Oh yeah, it's still a teeny tiny percentage, and
But there's so many. There's just way too many things. You know, to
they still need technological advancement.
I mean, a lot. Okay, I'm saying you're crazy to try and eliminate fossil fuels at this point in time.
Right.
I can tell you.
Let the market handle it.
The
It'll
market
all
will
work
handle
it out.
Well, we did have some laws as far as automobile pollution was concerned. Now, that was a mandate from on high, and I can tell you from my personal experience, having visited California many times, I remember when it was smoggy a lot.
Yeah.
Not so much anymore.
Yeah.
So, as bad as the traffic is out there,
Yeah.
not so much anymore. Okay. I've got a new item here. Let me just make sure. Do you have anything else on that?
Not on
Okay.
those guys.
I'm gonna. This is a.
Oh,
complete-
well, one thing on Cory Booker. Did you notice that his plan was for everybody to go vegan?
Yes, I saw that. Well, again, that's what this is all about. You know. This,
Right,
I mean,
exactly.
you don't.
Come on, man.
Well, you know, one of the things you realize, somebody suggested one time that they ought to put Beano in the cow's food.
Oh, right. Yeah, exactly. Why not?
And so that way they will eliminate the methane. Well, yeah. So anyway,
Well, I think it has more to do with the clearing and than
clearing.
the ground clearing to house the cattle. In terms of the impact on climate, rather than just the cow farts.
Oh,
I think
okay.
I think the major objection to beef is the fact that Brazil is mowing down rainforest to put up pastures, and
Well,
they
you
don't
got to
like-
mow down rainforest to put up wheat fields.
right.
So
Look, it's food for humans. I'm with you. I mean,
Yeah.
you're not gonna. I'm pro-human. Okay.
Good for you.
And yeah, exactly. And so if people are gonna eat the cows, then we need pasture for that. Then we're not eating whatever was growing in the rainforest right now. I mean, I would love to preserve the rainforest and everything, but you have to deal with the realities on the ground. The realities on the ground is a lot of people need meat right now and protein, and there's
they're cleaning out the oceans.
oh, we only fish. I saw something about that the other day. Somebody was all worried about us running out of fish. Well, we fish like 1% of the oceans.
Really?
Yeah, we fish a little teeny tiny.
I didn't know that. I thought there was all kinds of food fish that are disappearing. I know the cod have disappeared from up north or something.
Well, in certain spots,
They've
and you
been
can
overfished.
outfish them. Yeah, in spots.
Yeah.
But it just. You know what? There's plenty of fish in the sea.
That's my mother used to say that.
That's right.
Okay, I think I'm gonna wait on that red. On the
Oh,
red.
and also, just real quick, if you go on YouTube, you can Google or you can YouTube search for a video that says something like 10 ways vegans are destroying the planet.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it'll go into exactly, for example, lettuce has a teeny tiny number of calories
Right.
per pound.
Right.
So when you
None of it's all water.
Right. So when you transport vegetables, you're really shipping water, huge tons of water all over the place, which puts gas everywhere, pollutants all over the place.
Well, if you
way
could use
more-
lettuce for fuel,
Well, and they'll use hemp for fuel eventually.
Yeah.
But my point is that
big rubber band.
there are plenty of arguments that say that veganism is actually worse for the planet than.
Well, one of the things that happens with it's interesting because the animals
Omnivorism.
that are vegans they do the methane business and they poop a lot
Okay.
because in order to get the protein that you need out of low protein item, you have to pass an awful lot through your body. So
And I'll tell you one more thing. I just watched a TED talk on pasture animals and pasture animals' ability, herd animals' ability to rejuvenate barren land. By what you do is you put the cows out there, or the buffalo, or whatever it is, and of course they're crapping and peeing and everything all over everything, and they're stomping it into the ground, and bacteria and stuff grows, and so you are regreening areas that.
that's why when they use goats and stuff they move them around.
Okay.
Because the goats, I think, are one of them that chew too close to the ground.
Okay, yeah.
And
yeah, they'll tear it they'll barrenize the place.
Right, but what I'm saying is what they do is they make sure that before it gets to that, they move to the next thing
next
and
area.
allow it all to grow back again.
Right.
And in fact, that's what Mother Nature does. I was watching this thing on Africa and about the migrations, the huge migrations.
Right.
And they leave after the ground they come back next year, it's all
Right.
grown.
Right.
So, that's... okay. Here's the other thing, another government thing, a couple things here. This is out of sequence here. New Jersey voters furious as Governor Murphy prepares to sign a rain tax.
New
into law.
Jersey.
Yeah, New
Now
Jersey.
you bring
New
us
Jersey.
to fabulous New Jersey.
That's right. Yeah, that's
Yes.
right. Jersey housewife.
There you are. You're
Thank
in
you. Newark.
Yeah, you're in Corey's district.
Yes. Corey, God. The rain tax, which is largely supported by Democrats and largely opposed by Republicans, would allow towns, counties, and local authorities to set up their own stormwater facilities. These newly created arms of local bureaucracy would be empowered to charge property owners a fee based on the amount of non-permeable surface, like parking lots and driveways, a special fee, because the runoff is supposedly a pollutant. And of course, one of the problems we have here in Florida is not that so much as the runoff from fertilized land and creating the problem with the algae and everything in our streams and lakes and so forth.
Right.
But so anyway, they talk about it, the fact that it gets polluted as it travels, and the rainwater. I guess what they would like to have is if the rainwater would not fall on anything except right on where the sewer is,
Right.
and that way there'd be no.
This
pollution.
is weird. This is like an existence tax or something.
Yeah.
This is like, oh well, you're going to breathe X amount of air, and gets back to your core.
Well, they do say, what they're saying is that it does that this does go into their water treatment system, and therefore they have to charge for it. Now here, it's interesting because they charge a lot in Gainesville, not for the non-permeable business or anything like that, but just because they charge twice as much for treatment as they do for the actual water.
So when it goes down your drain, you're paying.
Twice
Right.
what it was to get it there. So I guess that's. Who knows? But anyway, I just thought it was interesting. They call it a rain tax. I know there are places, for instance, where what's interesting is, I think there's a couple of places in Colorado where you're actually not allowed to have a rain barrel.
Yeah.
You're capturing my drain.
That's right.
For use. You're supposed to use my city rain,
Right, our
water or whatever it is, and not your own. They really come out and fine you for that. God almighty. All right, moving on. This is a big deal in a way. South Africa.
Taxes show no sign of.
No. We're going to talk a little bit about this. I've got another one where there is, as this rain tax is concerned, there is no segment that they won't tax, and it goes to the Beatles song, tax this, tax me, tax whatever the hell it is, and I mean it's just a great song. South Africa oil discovery could be a game changer. One of the promising hotspots for oil and gas exploration on drilling this year, South Africa's offshore has just yielded a massive new natural gas and condensate, whatever that is, find that could open a new exploration province for oil majors and change the energy fortunes of South Africa. Well, guess what? Not so fast.
No.
No. It sounds great on its surface, but when you look at Venezuela, that has the largest known reserves that you can possibly imagine, and how they've blown it. And now when you see that in South Africa, they're starting in overt racism where they have decided to drive out the productive class, and they're going to confiscate as the same thing they did in Venezuela, confiscate the various private enterprises, or you're going to nationalize them. And if you think that this is not going to happen in South Africa, you're crazy. They are doomed to failure. I was reading this thing. France's major gas refiner people are called Total, and they said this week they had made a significant. They're the ones that went out there, as we do. Exxon and Shell and all those other people, they go out and do the exploration, and so the discovery could hold 1 billion barrels of oil equivalent of gas and condensate resources. It is exciting for our country that this discovery has been made. It is potentially a major boost for the economy, and we welcome it as we continue to seek investment to grow our economy, says the Minister of Resources. Well, what you can see right now what's going to happen. First of all, you have bureaucracy called the Ministry. You have the Bureau of Resources and the Minister of Resources, and these guys absolutely know how best to handle this stuff.
That's right. They're experts. They're top men.
This is the great first step for a country which still relies on imports of oil and gas, despite the great reserves believed to be here. Now, what's fascinating, of course, is we've seen just recently, we talked about this before, about how Mexico used to be one of our neighbors, that we got a lot of gas from them, a lot of oil, from Mexico, and of course we did from Venezuela. I think we still do a little bit from Venezuela, but not so much anymore. But how we've seen that they're having gas lines down in a gas-rich country, in Mexico. So, if you think this is not going to happen under the dictatorial regime of South Africa, you're crazy. It says here, the oil industry hopes, and I've always said, hope is not a business plan. So I would say, if it was written correctly, this would be: the oil industry expects that this will be a catalyst and encouragement for all policymakers, okay, these are the top men, work on an enabling business environment for exploration and drilling activities in South Africa. Now, what's interesting is is that the way you do enabling is you get out of the way. You quite simply and easily you get out of the way. You every little thing you put in there, every
Gotta
little
prime the pump, man.
yeah, prime the pump. And of course, you wonder where'd that water come from. So anyway, South Africa is currently working on new legislation that would separate the conditions for exploring and exploiting oil and gas resources from those for traditional materials. That is to say, they're going to take new laws for oil and gas as opposed to gold and silver and all that kind of stuff, as far as their Bureau of Minerals or whatever. Even though the well isn't an oil discovery, if Brulpadda proves to be anywhere near as big as the estimates up to 1 billion barrels, it will be a game changer for South Africa. And of course, here's the thing that the government has said, quote, while a strong case can be made for the development of gas economy, long-term growth requires a clear plan from the government.
A clear plan.
Planners,
A
I tell
clear
you,
long-term plan.
oh my gosh, you just sit there and you think planners are steeped in today. And that's one of the reasons why the governments don't innovate at all. I mean, people will say, well, they invented the internet. Well, let's not get carried away. DARPA did the first, but I mean, the explosion in the internet, all 100% came from...
Porn.
Huh?
Porn.
You bet. You got that right.
I mean, come on.
I mean, that was an explosion in DVDs too. That's right. So anyway, I just think it's this is a two-edged sword with both edges sharp and pointed towards the heart of South Africa.
Well, and this reveals or underlies the other situation. I noticed you had a story in there about California and their high-speed rail
Yes.
derailment.
They finally Newsom said axed it, and they haven't axed ours here yet, have they?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't. They're supposed to get one from. They're supposed to have a thing from. I think from Tampa to
Orlando,
Orlando
Miami.
down to Miami or something like that. High speed.
They've tried a couple of times.
I know they have. And of course, they're always. This is the one thing that. Well, it's all going to be private money. No taxpayer money. Oh,
Sure,
yeah, right.
And well, it was interesting. I thought that the projections originally for California's high-speed rail were 13 billion, but the costs are up to 50-something billion, and they're projected to go to 77 billion, with a possibility of going to 98 billion.
Yeah.
So $100 billion. Now I don't know how much a plane costs. I don't know. It's hard to do that math in terms of the travel, but it's $2,000 for every man, woman, and child in the state of California.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
Right away, you got to kind of ask yourself, what are the costs? But that's something obviously that nobody ever is concerned about when we're talking about big projects.
No, well, I can tell you this much: and here's one of the reasons why it's fascinating: is spending is easy, maintenance is difficult, and that's what governments do. They'll spend. They'll give you a nice shiny new hospital, a nice shiny new road, a nice shiny new school, and then 20 years later, it's fallen completely apart.
Right. Well, that's because it was created artificially.
Right.
If it was created by a core person who wanted to build the hospital, then they're still alive, or they pick other people who want to maintain it or whatever. But if it's just given, like if somebody just in government writes a check, well, that person may not be elected next year or whatever it is.
Yeah.
The funding, it's all...
They always forget about, they call it investments, and as I said before, an investment implies a return, a monetary return. No, pie in the sky, good for the community. No, it has to be a monetary return, and measurable.
And I keep seeing these, reading people throw out these, well, for every dollar we spent, we got $67 a return, and
that's what
$42 a return on $17. It's like, come on, man, you got $1 return on your $1.
You didn't even get that. There was a brokerage fee.
Right, exactly.
What are you talking about? You got to pay the that's it. And the whole thing is, I've said this before. If it's that good, put all the money in there.
Right. Pick the one that's 92 to 1 or
whatever it is. Well, I was saying one the other day that Bill Gates has said that for every $1 that they give to charity, there's $6 of something.
I saw that one, and I saw another guy said, well, tuberculosis research was $43 return on every $1 in investment. What was funny was that the same guy had another article that said he had some other issue, and that was only like $10 for every dollar return. I'm like, well, why would you spend $1 on that one when you could get $47 return on your tuberculosis every single time?
So anyway, yeah, it's just that's what happens with when you get money basically for free, essentially, because you with a gun you go out and collect it, and then you decide how to spend it because you're so good at this.
Mm-hmm.
You're just priceless, you know. And of course, it turns out it's never enough. I remember this.
Well, it can't be. It can't be enough because there's only two ways you could give out the money. You could give it out in a lump sum, or you could give it out over time.
Right.
Well, if you give it out in a lump sum, then you got to ask yourself the question: is that it? Does that fix everything? Is it over? And of course, the answer is no.
Right.
Like, there's no way that everybody's going to say, "Well, that's it. We're done."
Well, you can't give it out. Governments can't give it out in a lump sum anyway, because where do you put it? It's not in the bank.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is like let's say the government were to say, "Okay, we're going to." When you turn 18, we're going to give you your Social Security money. We're going to write you a check for $102,000 or something. Like this universal basic income that we're hearing about is what I'm getting at. We keep hearing about universal basic income, like they're going to give somebody money. Now think about it. If you get a check, what if you go out and spend it that night on gambling or whatever? Then are they going to give you another check? I mean, you're a poor person again. What are you going to do? And what's society going to do with you then at that point if you've spent the money? So then you got to ask yourself, well, maybe we should just provide services. We'll just instead of giving them the money, we'll just give them the housing and the transportation and the whatever. Just make everything free. Well, yeah, that's gonna work out.
We
great.
see that it's not exactly working.
Well, and here's what always happens when you get. I think these big government projects are sort of on the wane here because it seems to me like as soon as you come up with a big government project, of course, all of your crony buddies are going to come in and be like, "Hey, we'll do that for you for $50 billion." Or whatever it is, and then the price instantly goes.
Well, of course, and there's massive corruption.
Well, that's what I'm getting at.
People were talking, for instance, with the railroad, the original railroads that Lincoln signed up for, and they took all the massive corruption, which all came to roost and during the Grant administration, and there was just people that were being paid. It was just unbelievable. And
we know someone who works at the accounting over here at the University of Florida.
Yeah,
and. They'll tell us, man, when they get bids, it's all about who they want the bid to go to.
Oh, yeah.
And they always way underbid it and then double the price later.
Oh, well.
With the adjustments and all that kind of stuff. And it's just, that kind of corruption is replete now in our governments. Nobody even cares. You have Ilhan Omar talking about it's all about the Benjamins, right?
Yeah.
People are talking about, our elected officials are bribed. Who's taking the money? Where's the bribe? Like, if it's really happening, then obviously you do something about it. But we know it's just campaign contributions,
right?
And so
it's job security. A lot of that is basically job security. I saw this when I was selling computers. At the end of the fiscal year, they would come in and they'd buy anything. If we don't use up our budget,
right,
they're not going to give us that much next year.
Right.
So it was just that simple. And you sell them 10,000 paper clips for God's sakes.
Right.
Something just to spend it.
Right.
So we were complicit in that.
Well, but you're the business guy, and
yeah.
It's like I responded to a tweet from John Stossel about Jeff Bezos, and he's talking about. He was complaining that Bezos had lobbied Congress to raise the minimum wage on all of his competitors. Mm-hmm. And are you going to blame Bezos for that? Or are you going to blame the people who he conned into doing it? I mean, it's their fault. They're the ones
They can always say no.
Exactly.
They can say no.
They have the vote. So if you want to blame somebody, it's got to be the elected official because they're the one that casts the vote that sends the guys with the guns.
The last one in line. Exactly. I'm going to move on.
Go ahead.
The Yellowstone volcano has come up again.
Well,
we've talked years ago. I don't know. We've talked about this several times. Uh-huh. I did a little math on this just to find out how bad it is. The Yellowstone volcano apparently has been. Let's see, what was it? 3 times in history. Mm-hmm. 2.1 million years ago, 1.2 million years ago, and 640,000 years ago. And when this happens, all the western states get blanketed under, multi-thousands degree Kelvin, whatever it is, of ash and hot and everything, and And life basically it's practically a life extension.
It's bad.
It's bad. That's right. And they've been intensely monitoring, and they've noticed by a team of scientists and volcanologists. That's not Spock, is it? No, volcanologists. Okay. Concerned by a 400-mile long plume of hot magma that is rising between the Earth, and so they've noticed here recently that this is I won't say it's unusual, but it appears as though something is happening, and of course this is we're in imminent danger, as we talked about before, of when galaxies collide in 4.6 billion years instead of 3.8 billion. Look out. So now, of course, the thing I wonder about is, we talked about this the other day, about the bunker outside of Las Vegas. I wonder if this magma was to explode, would
pyroplastic flow.
Pyroclastic, right?
You never know. It's nothing. It's 1,000 degrees at 300 miles an hour, and it vaporizes. I mean, you saw Pompeii. Everybody's seen. That's what happens.
Oh, I visited Pompeii.
Oh, you did?
Oh, yeah. It was interesting. Here's a little branch. If you go to Pompeii, what you do now, I don't know if it's the same now, but Pompeii was really a den of iniquity.
Oh, is that right?
Totally. I mean, let me tell you, it was where you
party
went.
town.
I mean, it was like Club Med porno, whatever. So you go down there, and there's all this stuff, and then some guy will pull you aside. He's just nothing. For an extra couple of hundred lira, he'll show you the good stuff.
Oh, no kidding.
Oh, there's all kinds of porno in there, and it's still preserved and everything like that. But it shows you what these guys were up to down in Pompeii.
Well, and if you think about it, okay, Vesuvius was a VEI 5. Okay, this is volcano explosive index.
Okay,
in terms of the amount, it was measured by the amount of material that it expels, and I think it was about a square kilometer of material that came out of Vesuvius.
A square kilometer.
Yeah. A cubic kilometer.
Cubic kilometer. Yeah.
Now, Yellowstone is like 1,000 cubic kilometers of material. I mean, it is ridiculous. It is a VEI 8. It is the largest type of volcanic explosion that we experience on the Earth.
So anyway, this is another one of these scare things. Everybody. Yeah. I mean, what are you going to do?
Look, here's the deal.
I'm going to run. Nobody's going to run from this. I don't care who you are.
Well, no.
I mean,
and also, it could do more than just blanket the whole eastern United States. It could create the cloud.
Western United States. It says here the potential to wipe out 3/4 of the U.S. is triggered, and now it's the job of geologists, I guess, and volcanologists too, to intensely monitor a large area of molten rock.
Sounds like they need funding.
Yeah, right. But it's interesting because they're going to intensely.
Right. Here's the thing. If you look at natural disasters in Wikipedia, it lists all the different things that everybody is concerned about. Of course, fires, hurricanes, floods, tornadoes, tsunamis, meteorites, volcanoes, earthquakes, fires, everything. So the good news is that everything that's super catastrophic is pretty rare. The only thing really that we're in danger of right now are like underwater earthquakes and tsunamis.
Okay.
So like the subduction zone in Oregon, Oregon could be wiped out any day.
A lot of it.
Portland
right.
just
gone. Oh yeah. And this has happened at least once before.
Right.
They showed.
And but this thing, 600,000 years, man, it could be another 100,000 years.
Easy.
Yeah.
Right. I did the math, and that's about right.
Yeah. So
I'm not gonna wake up every morning and say, did it happen?
And it's the same with meteors and that kind of stuff. The size of a meteor that makes it to the surface or to a place in the atmosphere where it can explode and cause damage, those are very rare. It's 50, 100 years.
At least, yeah.
And so the next time we get one like that one in Russia, it'll be another 50 years.
Yeah.
So
that was filmed.
Well, everybody got on their dash cams.
Everybody's in dash cams, yeah. Okay, so now the next thing is the shutdown.
Okay.
Now, as we record this, I don't know if Trump has actually signed anything.
Well, you talked about this already.
I did.
Yeah, you started on it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, then I'm moving on. The writer sues Twitter over a ban criticizing transgender people.
Yeah, this is that dead naming thing I was telling you about last week.
Oh yeah, right. Canadian blogger tweeted, "Men aren't women." Seems obvious.
Oh, hell no.
But guess what? Violating harassment rules on the platform. Megan Murphy, a gender politics blogger, what does that mean? I don't know, alleges that Twitter violated unfair competition law when it changed its hateful conduct policy
that
late last year.
Unemployed. Nothing.
Okay. Under Twitter's new policy, users can be banned for calling a transgender individual by their pre-transition names or referring to them with the wrong pronouns. Now, of course, the big question is, how would you know?
Well, right.
I mean, how would you know? Especially here we are, if you Skype somebody or we, if we get somebody else on our thing here, I mean, how would you prefer to be called? Let me spell that out or something. I don't know. So anyway, the lawsuit. Interesting is a Canadian blogger, but the lawsuit filed in Superior Court in San Francisco combines two hot button issues: how Silicon Valley's companies should moderate their content, and what protection should they provide for people for transgender individuals.
For words.
Yeah, with words. Right. That's exactly right. In the offending tweets, Ms. Murphy, that's her, Ms. MS period, wrote that transgender women are the same as men. In part, her argument says that their gender is determined at birth. These views are viewed by some lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, ABC, XYZ activists as inciting hate speech against transgender people. And I just, one of the things that we've always talked about is, if I do something like right now, if there are people watching this and they're offended, and
I'm with you. I have
no way.
I have this much sympathy for adults who are injured by words.
Yeah, right.
It's
Sticks
grow
and
up.
stones may
Grow
break.
up. We've been through this in elementary school. Everybody knows. You just suck it up.
Well, it's interesting. The policy was designed, the new Twitter policy was designed to make Twitter a more inclusive space for transgender individuals. Well, of course, guess what? There's some people that it's not inclusive for anymore. They're like her.
Right. Well, obviously.
Suddenly she's a hater. So it is not inclusive for haters.
Well, Jack is having a big problem right now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He was on Joe Rogan last week. And,
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't see that one.
Yeah, and basically...
Now, he's the CEO of Twitter.
Right.
Okay.
Jack Dorsey.
Jack Dorsey.
And basically what's happening is he's getting hit from all sides right now. Everybody wants him to do whatever they want him to do
Right.
with his platform.
Well, not only that, it's all dichotomy. You can't do anything.
Right. Well, you can't... Yeah, exactly. If you do one, you hurt the other group.
Exactly.
Look, if I were him, I would tell everybody... Jump in a lake, okay? It's words. Get over it. If you're hurt, don't read them. Sign off. Go somewhere else.
Anything.
Block, exactly. There are ways. You don't have to do it. You count to 10 and then come back. I mean, this is easy stuff. So I have no sympathy for these people.
It says interesting. Let's see. Here it is. The Twitter account, male name, parentheses. In the past year, the suit says the person behind that account has filed complaints against aestheticians.
Aestheticians.
Yeah, right. For refusing to perform Brazilian waxes due to a person's male genitalia. I thought, what? Here's a guy who's trans, okay? And he goes in for a Brazilian wax.
Say,
wait a minute, just a second. That's so. I mean, now this is not in Brazil. This is like here in the States.
Well, look, I mean, from my perspective, there's a 50% chance the person's doing it to sue them after they go, we don't do that here for you, or whatever.
Well, go ahead and do it. See what happens. Do a Brazilian wax on your nut sack and see how often you come back? Shit, give me a break. Oh my God, I thought that was interesting. You gotta be kidding me! You walk in Brazilian wax. Oh God, my eyes are starting to sting just by thinking about that. Another fear we have here today. Let me just make sure we're not okay. Eating ultra processed foods accelerates risks of early death. Now this has come out and they said the quick and easy noshes you love are chipping away at your mortality said one nibble at a time, according to a new research from France. And of course, one of the things that I have noticed about French food, which is great, is that it's all fresh. I mean, basically, it's almost, the idea that you eat, you pick up a bag of chips or something, you don't go over it well in France. I mean,
Right.
it's when every day you go down and you buy your fresh food of the day. So maybe this is why they're worried about it in France. So anyway, it says ultra processed foods as opposed, I guess, to processed.
Regularly processed.
Yeah, but and they say, well, it may lead to cancer, cardiovascular, early death, blah blah blah. Yeah, okay, fine. Eating. Let me put it this way: you're going to die. Okay. Now, if you die at age 80 or 79,
I don't know. I mean, I thought there was an argument that the extra preservatives were going to keep you preserved longer or something.
Well, you'll be dead, but you'll be preserved longer. That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, he ate nothing but processed. They opened up. They're going to give him another autopsy and say, after 10 years or whatever it is, it's perfect.
Still there.
Still there, right?
Yeah. I mean,
So another fear tactic, and of course their advice is read the label. Have you ever read the label on any of that stuff? It's absolutely, it's Latin for openers. The labels that tell you what's in it.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, there's no way you can tell what's in there. And of course, there's all kinds of rules. The only thing they tell you is supposedly the labels, what the ingredients are supposed to be listed in descending order as to the quantity.
By weight.
By weight, I guess it's by weight.
Yeah, it is.
Right. And so I would guess if it has one molecule of lead in it, that's going to be number one. I don't know. So anyway, the Food and Drug Administration announced plans Monday to step up its policing of dietary supplements, which it says mushroomed.
I was just going to say, I don't mind they publishing a story about super processed food, but just don't ban them from me. But okay, so now.
Yeah, right now, but here we are. Now
right.
What happens is, as you well know, there are, if you can go in, I mean, there's the foods, not the food stores, the supplementary food stores. You go in there and it's as big as Publix, for God's sakes. I mean, aisles and aisles of stuff that you don't need a prescription for, and it's supposed to be sort of good for this and for vitamin B, whatever it is, some kind of this, that, and the other. And of course, they're cracking down on it. They said the agency warned 17 companies for illegally making claims about their products' ability to treat diseases. So what they have to do is they have to couch the words, and they've tried to, because the old snake oil salesman.
Right.
This will cure. I remember watching the movie with Dustin Hoffman about the old man, whatever it is. He told us a story about he's an Indian fighter, and he goes from 100-year-old man or whatever it is, and he tells his story about being in the West. Okay. And what he did is he worked for a guy who was a snake oil salesman, and his job was to stagger up there. And his job was to stagger up there and then drink this elixir or whatever it is, and oh my God, I'm cured.
Pounds, and jump out of his wheelchair.
That's right. You walk up there on like they do with the preachers now. You walk up there on crutches and everything, and you throw them away. Okay. And so anyway, they are worried. They've decided that you can't do that. What's happened is the FDA's dietary supplements review. The review group has 23 employees, not that many for bureaucracy. But anyway, they wanted more oversight. They want to hire more people to go look at some of the 50,000 products and see if they are making claims that shouldn't be there. It's very hard to take on this industry comprehensively when the law shackles the agency to the extent that it does. Now, what the FDA, what they want to do is they want to unshackle the law, and
so that they can shackle some more.
So they can shackle the
right.
Exactly right. The FDA is still figuring out how exactly it might tighten oversight. But one possibility is a mandatory database for dietary supplements to improve transparency. And make enforcement easier. I mean, this is so scary. It's developing a way to more quickly and consistently alert people about supplements that might have illegal ingredients. This goes out in the Federal Register or something. Who reads it? Who does anything?
Well, it doesn't matter.
They have a big ad brought to you by the FDA. I would be suspect of that right off the bat.
Well, for sure. But this is the kind of thing, it's scary because, as we've talked about in the past, Congress at this point has the authority to pass an omnibus bill of some type for our health. they could mandate all types of
They did mandate that we pony up money
right, but
for our
they
health.
could mandate exercise and
that's
eating
right.
habits, and
If
you
you're
got
a smoker, you don't get. You walk in. You do a urine test, and if they find out you're a smoker, they say, "No, can't do it."
I mean, it could get ugly. I mean, you just wish that they would get out of the whole thing. One thing I will say that's kind of nice, back the other way, Ron DeSantis, our new governor here, has gotten on board with allowing people to use the flowers of the marijuana plant for their medicine.
Oh, okay.
And they may get a resolution coming out in a few months here, next month actually, which opens the door for people to use pre-rolled cigarettes.
All right.
But
All right.
you
There
can't
go.
roll
Yeah,
it yourself.
that's right. They wanted for medical purposes.
Mm-hmm.
There are people that can only smoke it. You can't get the whatever it is.
Well, it's what they're
Because
arguing.
the problem with the thing about smoking it is you get to do your own dose. That's
Okay.
that's the good news.
Okay.
The problem with a pill is it's all or nothing.
Okay. And well, I knew that. I mean, in Florida, they had previously prevented anybody from using the actual flowers. You had to get the tincture. You had to get a derivative that was specially controlled through one of the 7 groups or whatever. Although there's a few more groups now, I understand. But either way, it doesn't matter. They're gonna open up a little bit more at some point.
Good deal. Now, what's interesting, moving on in the same vein, sort of. The headline is Turkish food fight spreads with fines, raids, and inflation stings. Well, of course, it's not actually a food fight. It says the Turkey has found that fighting words alone are not enough to deter the people it blames for runaway inflation. Now, what's hysterical is when Ludwig von Mises one time was asked how to stop inflation in Austria, wherever this was. This is like in the 30s or whatever. He walked outside
Yeah.
of
Never heard this one.
of the where they're doing the printing presses, and he said, "Do you hear that? Stop those presses." And that's it, basically. The only way to do inflation, the only way to have inflation is to print more money. And but anyway, so they decided that they're not going to worry about this. You know, even after Venezuela, 1,000,000%, Zimbabwe, whatever it is, the Germans, you know, in 1923, blah, blah, blah.
Well, you know, with our new core inflation level is only 1% or something.
Well, it's 2% is what they aim for, but of course that's supposed to be an average. And I don't know if you noticed, but tuna has like 100% inflation.
Well, that's the thing. I was joking when I said core, because if you look around, everything has gone up.
Well, it excludes energy and food.
Right. And
So those don't go up.
right. Yeah.
Okay,
Of course,
so anyway,
that's exactly what happens.
So anyway, what they're doing is, after weeks of bashing those deemed to be price gougers and as traitors and even terrorists, the President Erdogan AK party is backing its threats with deeds. Fines are on the way after raids of wholesale food markets in 5 provinces uncovered exorbitant, quote unquote, price increases up to 800% for certain items. Authorities also want to cut out the middleman. This is great. What they're going to do, by purchasing vegetables directly from farmers and selling them at cut rate prices in Turkey's 2 biggest cities. What's fascinating to me is that we've had this in this country, of course, where the government buys cheese, for instance, and I don't know if they still do, but it used to be during sometime in my lifetime, they used to have literally warehouses full of cheese in order to keep the price of cheese up or milk up. You know, so the government would bring it off the market. In fact, during the first part of the Roosevelt thing, they slaughtered pigs in order to keep the price of pork up. I mean, they mandated the slaughtering of pigs in the 30s. Well, whatever. Whether price gouging alone is at fault remains a question, especially after the rapid depreciation of the lira in August raised the cost of food imports and transportation. It remains a question. What question? I'm sitting here thinking, you know exactly what causes inflation, and it's you. But of course, they always they're not going to say to
It's a
sneeze.
question.
Yeah, that's right.
Nobody knows.
Next item here. Let me just go here real quick. Make sure we're getting here towards the end. I hope. Yes. Thousands flee to the Congo as fighting flares up in South Sudan.
Yes.
And of course,
There we are.
Thank you. Yeah.
Oops.
Yeah. So anyway, what I find funny is that people are fleeing to the Congo.
Right.
I mean, are
Well,
you?
look, I'm in the Congo. And
I know
it
you
looks
are.
nice. See,
I know you
you're
are.
in South Sudan. It doesn't look so nice.
No, that's right, and that's exactly right. But I mean, I'm laughing because the Congo has never been what we call a model place. I mean, Mugabe or whoever it is has been running the place as a tyrannical place, and they've been wars, civil wars, and horrible. I mean, just been unbelievable. To think that you have to go to some place like the Congo from South Sudan. Things are really bad in South Sudan.
Well, yeah, they've been deteriorating there for decades.
It says renewed fighting in South Sudan is pushing thousands of people across the border into the Democratic Republic of Congo. Mm-hmm. It's democracy. Mm-hmm. The conflict in South Sudan has left about 400,000 people dead and displaced an estimated 4 million in the last 5 years. And more than halved the crude oil production to about 130,000 barrels per day. So it's the East African nation, South Sudan, is struggling to bring peace after warring factions agreed to a power-sharing government. You know, ain't never going to work. I mean, you look at Roman times. You look at any time they've tried the power-sharing, dual consuls, whatever. Nah.
Well, these little countries are all figuring it out. They're all going through their sort of monarchical phases right now, and I would imagine they're all patterned after their colonial rulers in terms of.
I don't think so.
Well, when I was looking for pictures for you, I saw a bunch of guys in South Sudan, and they had all their military uniforms,
Oh, yeah.
all their accoutrements, and
Yeah.
little, like you said, lettuce and whatever. It was, everything, and they're out in this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, we're the guys with the uniforms.
Right, we're the guy with the
We're in
uniforms.
charge.
And a gun.
And a gun.
And a gun. Okay, last thing I've got is, and I don't know if I mentioned this or not before, Ilhan Omar, U.S. Congressman.
Yeah.
I already did that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see. I might have a thing or two. We did that one. We did that one. Oh, I thought it was interesting that Kamala Harris came out and admitted that she had smoked marijuana.
Well, of course, there was a little problem.
right, with her timing.
Little problem. It was like when Hillary said she was named after Hillary, the mountain climber.
Right.
And you wait a minute. no, I'm sorry. You know, but yeah, no. She was listening to Tupac or whatever it was.
Right, yeah,
And
yeah.
while she was smoking a joint, except
His album didn't come out.
It didn't come out for 5 years after that.
Yeah. Well, but and of course, what she revealed, she just confessed to smoking weed as the prosecutor. And I'm thinking, how many people did she put away for that? And
You would like to go back through the record.
man,
Seriously. I mean, if you want to do oppo research, as they call it, which reminds me, by the way, for those of you who have not been binging on West Wing, keep on.
yeah, you said that.
I know, but I want to. Look, we got new viewers every time. So
I thought it was interesting that Trump may have rebranded his hats. Instead of MAGA, now they're red hats that say USA.
really,
Yeah, or at least they were some at the rally. And Scott Adams pointed out cleverly that this is a much less assailable hat.
yeah,
It's hard to say that kind of a hat is racist, a red hat with USA on it, and yet it still probably clearly represents Trump.
and well, the thing is, it's racist. That's why.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. Interesting. Let's see. Oh, this is a little light note.
Good.
Ralph Northam is launching a race listening tour.
No,
Yes.
I am slumping in my chair now.
He's going to find out what the problems are with racism in this country. He's going to tour around Virginia, I guess, and figure it out. So this reminds me of the conference on hate that the University of Miami sponsored when I was down at the school down there.
Really?
We had a hate conference, and you can imagine that within 10 minutes it deteriorated into a shouting fest, a screaming fest, and had to be
Chairs
shut
up in the
down.
air.
Yeah, it had to be shut down immediately. Because this is not the way you do it. You do not go around emphasizing people's differences. You don't point out all these unique differences and say, look how great we are. What you do is you emphasize the similarities.
Right.
You bring people together because they have common interests.
Right.
And then you just happen to enjoy the differences as frosting on the cake. But you don't, to line them up that way is just...
Well, when you think about it for a second, because I remember when Hillary first started to run years, I think before 2008, she started off by going on what they called a listening tour in New York. And I'm thinking, what are you doing? So the reason you do a listening tour is to figure out what can I say to appeal to this group of voters?
Right.
No matter what it is,
Right.
I listened, and now I'm going to respond to
say
you
that
because
stuff.
you want me to say such and such, I'm saying it.
Right.
You want me to say such and such, I'm saying it.
Right.
And of course, that's one of the major problems with government is all the elected officials have got like 19 or 20 different constituencies, and you have to figure out how many of them do you have to satisfy without totally pissing off everybody else in order to stay elected.
Well, you got to pick your demons these days because, of course, everybody's on camera. So we're going to find out who you support and who you don't. So,
We about done?
yes, we are.
Right on time.
Yeah. So, hey, thanks for joining us, everybody. We really appreciate it. We do this twice a week these days at 4 o'clock, Wednesdays and Sundays. This track is by Kevin MacLeod. It's called Cold Funk. Earlier you heard Whiskey on the Mississippi. In a moment you'll hear Happy Happy Game Show. We thank Kevin MacLeod for that. And I want to thank everybody for showing up. Gene and Dan, Bill, Javier, Chad, Bart. Hope you guys...
Javier showed up, my Apple II buddy.
Hey, there you go.
Cool, yeah, cool.
Hope y'all had some fun. We did. Thanks, Gene. We appreciate it. Yeah, it did go kind of fast today, didn't it? So anyway, we will see you next time,
Sunday,
Sunday at 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock.
Thank you so much.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Oh, yeah.
That's tomorrow?
Yep.
Okay. Don't forget to get your partner something.
That's right.
I love this song. This is a good beat.
Hey.